so weird having no racing over the weekend. Even though it's one weekend off when we have had weekends off throughout the pro motocross season, it just felt weird coming home from riding, not having much to do after. I'm like, well, I guess I'll just wash my bike and do that actually matters for a little bit. But it was weird not sitting at least 2-3 hours on the couch watching some racing and enjoying both 250 and 450 action.
Yeah, it definitely removes something to look forward to on the weekend. It's been such a fun series or season to watch with just a lot of excitement. I found myself really looking forward to each weekend to see just how's everything going to shake out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like this weekend at ZMAX Dragway in Charlotte, North Carolina is going to be no exception. Second annual SuperMotocross race. This is one of the rounds that they're actually returning to. This was a part of the first inaugural SuperMotocross schedule. So going back to ZMAX, again, it's the first round of the SuperMotocross series. But I think it's the, 20-something out of the whole SuperMotocross schedule.
Yeah.
So these guys are pretty burnt, but for a lot of you riders, only 3 to go, so hang in there.
Yep, and big payday coming too.
And yes, exactly. Now that's a nice little cherry on top. Let's tackle the 450 class first. We'll separate this into 2 different videos. 450 class, I feel like there's a lot to talk about because we have some returning riders, returning champions, and then we have some riders who are looking to put their name in the hat for a championship. And that, as you alluded to, pays out a lot of money. For the winner, it's $1 million, which is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, imagine we see 3 different title winners this year. We had a Supercross winner, different outdoor winner, and then what if we get a big shakeup in SMX? I mean, it could be a great way for somebody that maybe didn't have the season that they wanted to really finish this year with a win and then continue on with some good momentum into the Supercross season.
Let's get right into it because we have the reigning, defending. I wish I had a Bruce Buffer voice because that would just be epic right now.
He's awesome.
Jett Lawrence coming back. This will be his first race aboard the 2025 CRF 450R as well. I'm really looking forward to see how he bounces back from a couple different variables. The injury that he sustained, I would add. Well, really it started at Hangtown with the shoulder and then his thumb injury that he sustained a couple weeks after that, and then how he fares aboard the new bike. We've seen his brother, Hunter Lawrence, post some great results aboard the new bike, but how is Jett going to adapt to the new machine?
It seems like the SMX was really the turning point for Jett in terms of building momentum in his 450 career. So, really good point. I wonder if he feels any pressure at all going into this, feeling like I need to pick up where I started at, meaning like SMX last year, and kick ass here and use that momentum to continue into next year. Or is he maybe going to play it kind of easy the first round and just kind of get his feet wet, get a good finish, and just make sure that he's in this series for the next 3 races that we have coming up? I can't wait to watch him. He's such a talented rider, and it's great to have him out there again. I feel like he gets more of a value out of going out and kicking ass than just going out there and kind of getting his feet wet. I don't think that gives him maybe the confidence or really like the image he wants in terms of like showing up and being the guy. And
I think back to last year's race at ZMAX Dragway. This was the race he kind of, let's say, struggled at the most. Obviously, Jett had post great results at pretty much every single round he has raced aboard a 450, but he had pretty, let's say, mediocre results to his standards. I could see him kind of working his way into this championship, especially with the points being single, double, triple, kind of saying like, hey, if I needed work myself into shape and into race shape again for one round, this is the round I need to do it at. Because if it's saying double and triple the next 2 rounds, like, I'm all game for that. Let's go to Eli Tomac. This will be his first SMX race ever. He missed all of last year due to his Achilles injury. I feel like Tomac has now had a little bit of time after Ironman to recoup, got a couple races under his belt, a couple of different gate drops to get that intensity back a little bit. My attention is to be towards the number 3 of Eli Tomac because I feel like this type of track and this style of format really suits Eli Tomac's riding style.
Agreed. That's when I kind of spoke earlier about this could be an opportunity for somebody that hasn't won the championship this year to get one. That's kind of my first guy that came to mind is we could see Eli take this. He's very good at these hybrid tracks. We see that every year when he races Daytona. He had a really good just return to racing with just getting not off the couch, but just jumping back into the end of the series against riders that are not fresh, but they're in the meat of it. Like they've gotten gate drops, they've been racing, they're in the rhythm of it. And he just jumped in and did great right off the bat. So I think continuing off of that momentum, man, we could see an Eli Tomac championship, which would be really cool. 3 different race winners for 2024.
Yeah, it could be. I feel like he does need a little bit of help just because I want to say he's just outside the top 10 or around the top 10 going into the first SMX round based on the seeding. And how they do that is they take the overall points from Supercross, Motocross, create a seeding list from that. And I want to say he's around that 10th place spot, hovering around there. So he's going to need a little bit of help. But what is on his side is, again, going back to that points payout, single, double, triple. For a couple different riders have a bad round, Eli could jump, a couple different spots just in one single round. So depending on how the points play out, Eli Tomac does have a shot at this championship. Mathematically speaking, he does have a good shot. So
what a cool return that would be for that guy.
Recently crowned 450 Pro Motocross champion, Chase Sexton. Best guy throughout the summer this season. But Chase will be looking to capture his first SMX title. He is actually the guy who is number one aboard the seeding list heading into SMX. He's got the most overall Supercross and Pro Motocross points. And I feel like for Chase, he is just going to keep riding that momentum that he did all summer long. Granted, we did see some, let's say, a little bit of chinks in the armors. I think of High Point when he was chasing Jett, went down. But really after that, he kind of just put his whole summer together and captured his first 450 Pro Motocross championship. And now he's in a really good position to cap off the year, put a little cherry on top of that Pro Motocross championship and say, hey, I got the SMX title too. We could see him just go lights out 1-1. He's the healthiest guy, arguably the fittest guy, and he's ready to go.
Yeah, true. He's had no time off in a sense of like forced time off, like injury. So he's been able to get every gate drop. Pending doesn't have any like tip overs or just washing that front end. He should be the dude. In the motocross races, he at least has a lot more time to make up for it if he does wash the front. I think at this point we can kind of rule out it being the bike. I think it's kind of a Chase thing just due to his style and how much he pushes, which is cool. It's fun to see riders push that hard. But man, with Jett and Eli back, this is going to be a brawl.
Yeah.
And then with Plessinger right there, this is fuck. And then Hunter
Lawrence, Jason Anderson.
I think we're going to see a few guys watching the front just because they're going to be pushing and really fighting for all the traction that they can get. And with the style of the track it's going to be, I imagine a couple fast, flat corners where they're really sliding the bike and they're really fighting for all the traction that they can get. We know Cooper Webb has had some great finishes at Charlotte as well.
Yeah, hometown race for Coop.
Yeah, so there's so many dudes out there that can string together 3 great races and want to make up for the lackluster season they've had. So it's, man, think about the extra, like, not energy, but motivation certain riders can have.
Yeah.
Because now to them, it's just 3 races. Fuck how the rest of the series is gone. It's just these 3 races. That's all they care about. That can really motivate somebody to ride, maybe not beyond their levels, but to their peak of their performance, and maybe they haven't.
Yeah, and I like what you said there because I feel like this SMX seeding is really going to rejuvenate a lot of riders. The rider that comes to my mind, who is my dark horse pick for the title, is Jason Anderson.
Ooh,
and
nice.
I like what you said there about the flat corners because Jason Anderson flat corners just must go together like peanut butter and jelly. The way he could just square up a line or even like a shallow rut is just unfreaking real.
Yeah.
And I think that we could really see something bright from Jason Anderson. We saw some great performances in Supercross. I think of Anaheim 2, the Triple Crown race. Again, Washougal led a majority of the moto at Washougal. Granted, he didn't get the overall or the moto win, but great performances there. And, just to rattle through some of the other riders, kind of mentioned them. I think of Justin Cooper, who's another solid 450 rider. Ken Roxon is going to be right there. Yeah. Stacked. We mentioned Hunter Lawrence. It's just going to be a stacked 450 class.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. I love the hybrid mix of the track being kind of Supercross and moto. It's rad to see him go fast, and then it's really cool to see him do some big Supercross style jumps at the same time too. I watch it and think about how challenging that must be for the bike setup in terms of suspension. And I wonder how the riders and the mechanics weigh what they really value out of the setup and what they're willing to give up. What comes in my mind is traction. So think accelerating out of corners and getting good grip. So in that case, you need a setup that's going to be fairly comfortable compared to a pure Supercross setup, which is going to be much stiffer in order to absorb the whoops and the jumps. So I wonder how each team and rider is going to kind of evaluate that and then personally weigh what they feel is more important in the setup versus what they can give up or compromise with and just know my bike isn't ideal in this section, but it's going to be ideal in these sections of the track.
For sure, and I feel like this race and this hybrid form of track design is really going to exploit good or bad bike setup. There's going to be some compromises either or. If you want a comfortable, more forgiving setup, you're really going to suffer in those rhythm sections where you're having triple and maybe even quad. And vice versa, if you have a really stiff setup, like what you were alluding to, you're really going to struggle on those chatter bumps, whether acceleration bumps, braking bumps, or even some longer roller sections or whoop sections. So it's just going to be quite a bit of a mix between the two. But what would you do if you're going out for your first session and saying, hey, my stuff is a little bit too soft? Would you just try to fine tune by doing some clicker adjustments, or would you go back and just do a complete revalve to make up the difference?
Yeah, good question, man. I think the answer would depend on how far off the rider felt we are. If they felt like, hey man, we're maybe too soft by 10% or so, that's something we could achieve with clickers. If they thought it was much larger of a change was needed, like 25 or 50% more, then in that case, I think they would just have some different suspension already built on hand, like just like another setting, maybe a more pure Supercross setting. Maybe they're going into this with kind of a Daytona setup. So something that's stiff, you can still jump some stuff and ride very aggressive with, but also it's going to hold up or be comfortable to ride as the track breaks down. That'd be my guess, is what a lot of teams are going to kind of utilize as a base, or at least a starting point for SMX.
Especially with the race being on the East Coast, North Carolina, more softer, tackier dirt. Granted, Daytona is beach sand, so that's a little bit different, but I feel like Daytona, to what you alluded to, is probably a good starting point, and then maybe even go a little bit softer or stiffer depending on rider feedback. But I think that we'll call it there, dude. 450 preview show for the Super Motocross round. We will have a 250 preview show again as well up on the Ride JBI YouTube channel. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys in the next episode.